What's up, people? We're back with the Invisible Black Elephants podcast. I am your host, Elder J, here again, and I have a special guest with me. This is Shalira Taylor. She is running for Congress in Ohio, District 11, and I am super excited to have this conversation with her. Everybody, please welcome Shalira Taylor. Shalira, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone out there in the podcast world, and thank you, Elder J, for inviting me and speaking with you today.
Awesome. So before we get started, just in case people sometimes don't like to listen to whole podcasts, so I want you to get your information out immediately. Tell us about your website, and then we're going to have a conversation.
So it's Shalira Taylor. That's my name. If you Google me, you can find me as well. But my website is taylorforuscongress.com. It's pretty easy. I know a lot of people don't know how to spell Shalira because my parents gave me a very unique name. And so I just use my last name, which is Taylor. So taylorforuscongress.com. All of my social media is pretty easy too. So at ST, the number 4OH, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, it's all the same. So I try to keep everything very easy.
Awesome. Taylor, FOR, right? Not the number 4,
Correct.
it's Taylor, FOR, U.S. Congress, not just Congress, y'all. It's Taylor for US Congress.com. And then all her social media is ST4OH. That's for Ohio. And then you can find her on all the social media aspects, right?
Correct.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So first of all, I want to talk to you because you are running for Republican. Now you are a Black female, and I know people are like, hold on, Black females are all Democrats. So what's going on here? It's not even just Black
That's
people.
not
Black
true.
females are overwhelmingly Democrat. So what in the world are you doing? Did you crossed the wrong street? You went down the wrong way? What's going on? Well, we got to get you back somewhere. What's going on?
Not at all. There are plenty of Black females that are Republicans on my side. Honestly, people think that on a regular basis I deal with old white men because I'm a Republican, but that's not true. I deal with my own people on the Republican side a lot because there's a high number here in Cobb County. Now, granted, we're only looking at 10% of Republicans in this district, period. But the people in which that I'm working with, they look just like me a lot of times. Now, in some cases, when you go a little higher up and maybe you're at a state meeting or on a federal level, then I might be the only person in there that kind of looks like me. But we need more people
That's
in there
right.
that look like me. So that's one thing. I decided to run for office in 2015. So I ran for state rep in 2016. And when I sat down, so let's rewind. I never had any experience in political office prior to 2015.
2015.
None of my family members were in politics or anything. So when I decided to run for office, I had to sit down and kind of figure out how to do it. Like, what's the process? Go and get signatures. How do you file them? All of this other stuff. I also had to decide on if and when I win, what decisions will I be making? In Congress and in the House, you have to say yay or nay. It can't be maybe. You can't be lukewarm, as the Bible puts it. You have to be hot or cold. So when I have to draw the sand in the line, I'm a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. There's a lot of things in which that the ideology, the values of the Democratic Party, they don't sit well with me, and they also don't benefit the Black community as well. So I kind of saw that, and considering this district has been controlled by the Democrats for the last 40 years, I knew I didn't want to be a Democrat at all. I knew that they were the leading problem in this area, and most areas that are, predominantly Black and poor are ran by the Democrats. So I knew I needed to do something different, and I needed to be different if I wanted to be the change in which that we needed. I needed to be different. I couldn't do everything everyone else continually did.
Awesome, awesome. So you said when you looked at the policies, you noticed that you fell on the Republican side. At what point did you recognize this? Were you raised to be a Republican? Like, were your parents Republican, or did you find this out later on in life, or did you find this out in 2015, like right before you decided to run? Like, at what point did you say, hey, you know what, I'm actually a Republican?
So my parents, both of my parents are Democrat. Well, were Democrats. My dad is still a Democrat. My mom is now officially a Republican, and
You converted her?
she sits on a central committee. She's a card holding Republican, just like I am.
Oh my
My
God.
brother, my older brother, who never voted prior before, is now a Republican as well. So I converted a lot of people with my move. But no, I was not born and raised a Republican. As a matter of fact, I voted for Bill Clinton. That was the first time I ever voted in 98 when
Hmm.
or 99 when I voted, was able to vote. And after that, I cannot tell a lie. I voted for Bush the second time around because I liked him. The
You
first time I
snuck
was
in
like,
and voted for Bush? I know you didn't
I
tell
don't
anybody that.
know. Yeah, yeah. Well, I tell people now, but at that time I didn't. I very much liked Bush and how bold he was in his presidency. So I voted for him the second time. And then, of course, I worked on Obama's campaign in 2008. So I voted for him. I was at the victory party and all of that stuff. Now, the second time, I didn't even go and vote the second time. One, I didn't like any of the candidates, and two, um, I didn't like any of the candidates. And at that time, I really wasn't happy with President Obama and some of the things that were going on, like the National Defense Act and the fact that he didn't do a lot of stuff for Black people. I thought we were going to be going to the promised land, you know, it was going to be free and we was going to run around and everybody was getting 40 acres in a Lexus, okay? So
That's right.
that did not happen. And so I was a little disappointed the second term for President Barack Obama. Well, according to the Board of Election, I would have been an independent this whole time because I vote according to my conscience, not
Hmm.
just off of party. So they never pinned me as a Republican or a Democrat in the beginning. But like I said, in 2015, when I decided to run and I decided to prepare myself to run, I had a choice to run as a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent. Now, granted, I had never spoke to or dealt with any of the county parties here. So like the Young Democrats, I wasn't involved with them. Well, slightly was involved with the 2008 Barack Obama presidential campaign, but not on a regular basis or even since 2008. So, and I most definitely never been to the Republican Party of Cuyahoga County, which is here. And then as an independent, you don't have a party. So I said, well, what do I want to do? I could run as an independent or I could run as a what? Will it be a Democrat or Republican? And like I said, I looked over some of the legislations, like where do we stand on Constitution, abortion, taxes, you know, job creation, all of this stuff. And I felt that I was more in line with the Republican Party and what they stood for than the Democratic Party. Now, we don't agree on and see eye to eye on everything in which the Republican Party stands for, like with energy. I do think that we need to move into more of a clean energy and get rid of coal and oil and nuclear, but not on the crazy level of the Green New Deal where we just cut everything down and start over from scratch. I think that's totally insane, but we need to start looking at those cleaner energy processes. but the party and I might not see eye to eye on at least that one thing.
Yeah,
Everything else,
I never
we're here.
really understood that. And being a Republican or being a conservative, right? There's certain policies that you want to stick to because they fall within a philosophy, right? But like when it talks about like climate change or doing stuff for the environment, I think Republicans a lot of times just dismiss the issue because Democrats have gotten so crazy over that issue, like with
Right.
the Green New Deal, instead of saying, okay, they're crazy. Yes, we need to fix the environment. Here's a better alternative to how
Exactly.
we do that. So it's not, I don't think you should just get rid of that issue altogether. Yeah. Because what happens is they can always bring that up in a debate and say, hey, these guys don't even think something's going on. Or they
Right.
think that the environment, we shouldn't take care of our rivers and streams and parks and stuff like that. And it's like, well, who's saying all of that, right?
Right.
So yeah, I'm glad you don't concede that issue to the Democrats.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. Now, since you had to run, you probably got pamphlets out and um, those posters with your face on there, vote for me, and it said Republican on there in 2015. How was that with your face with an R next to your name in your community? Like, did you face a lot of backlash? Were they like, girl, what is wrong with you? Like, what is going on? How did that work out for you
It
within
was
your own community? I'm not talking about the crazy people.
total, total confusion. Total confusion. Because one, like I said, I, I didn't start off as someone that was political in the first place. It wasn't like my parents were attorneys and, we were already in this political world. It was kind of like I decided to run, like President Trump decided to run. The only difference is he has a few $billions and, I'm still sitting in District 11. So so for the most part, people were totally surprised that I was running in the first place. So I got these three kind of feelings. One was like, hey, girl, go ahead. We're proud of you. We need people on that side anyway. Okay, like I said before. Then I got some of, I'm not sure about what you're doing, but let's talk about it and maybe I can understand. And then I got a very large number of people who were just like, you are totally insane. You're hanging out with President Trump and he's Satan and he's never going to win. And you're just going to go down the losing line and all of this other crazy stuff. And I was just kind of like, wow, okay, well, what about the issues? So I would always bring it back to the issues
Bring it back to the issues.
in the community, because it's the fighting the R and fighting my support for the president. We can battle and debate all day, but what we usually don't debate about is where I stand on the issues. So the reason why I was able to convert so many people is because of the issues. Because I say to them, hey, well, like right now I'm running for Congress. Do you agree that all kids should be vaccinated, whether their parents want them to or not? Most people say no. And most people in my community aren't okay with mandatory vaccinations. So they're like, well, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, the current congressperson and state rep is pushing Federal Bill 2527, where it is called Vaccinate All Children, and it takes away the medical and the religious exemptions away from parents. So therefore, they can't say, because I'm Jewish or Jehovah's Witness, that I don't want my child vaccinated, or because they had an adverse effect from the first vaccination, I don't want them to be vaccinated again. They are trying to take those rights away. And when you look at the bill, Federal Bill 2527, and you look at who sponsored and co-sponsored it, you will not find an R behind anyone's name on there.
Wow.
So those
And
are
see,
the kind of issues.
black people I know now, we are kind of suspicious of vaccinations, especially since over the
It
last
seems
few
the
years, the
hmm
autism rate in the Black community,
exactly.
especially for Black boys, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that should resonate. And I kind
Yes.
of do the same thing. I tell people, look, always bring it back to policy, always bring it back to issues. And people need to learn to be able to vote the issue versus the personality that's going to be up there, because
Exactly.
the personality is going to be gone soon, but that law, that bill that they put out there that got signed off on, is going to remain after them. So you
Yep.
want to make sure that you pay attention to that point. That's awesome. So now you are running again. This time, not at the state level, you're running at the federal level, correct?
Correct.
And you're running against, it seems like, what's her name? Marcia Fudge. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Now it looks like I looked her up and it said she's been in since 2008,
Correct.
and she has been dominating in the categories as far as all the elections. She's
hmm
winning by at least 80%, getting at
Right.
least 80% of the vote. So it looks like she is part of that whole swamp system, that
Exactly.
Democrat machine. How is it? What's your strategy, or what's the plan that you have um, to kind of combat that machine?
So in the district, there is 47% independents and 52% Democrats, and only 10% Republicans. So, like I said, as myself prior being an independent, I know more people vote versus their conscience than with a party, especially in this district. 47% does. So going after the 47% and knowing that I will receive some Democrat votes, because I received Democrat votes in 2016 when I ran for state rep. I received Democrat votes when I ran for city council as well in 2017. And so I expect to win some of the Democrats over, especially with some of the things in which that Marcia Fudge has been supporting and doing. A lot of people see it. A lot of people see that she doesn't have the best interest for at hand for the urban community. She's not helping with infrastructure. She's not putting putting sites on cities that are letting these houses just sit around and be abandoned. I was talking about abandoned housing and how people are being using drugs in them. They're being murdered in them. There's a lot of crime is happening in these abandoned houses, and why at a federal level, Marcia isn't holding the state accountable or the city accountable for these homes. And someone said, you know what? I guess she could do that. Yeah, I mean, when you have the pen, you can do whatever you can do whatever you want. And so she is not, I don't think, utilizing her power the way that she should in order to acquire things for this district. There are other districts that have way more money for school, way more money for infrastructure, way more money to put towards their opioid addictions. Um, it's countless, but they're not. She's not actively going after this money for this district, and if she is, she's not being heard. Um, I spoke to her during her town hall and asked her if she was in the process of acquiring any money from that urban revitalization fund that has $100 billion in it, $100 billion in it. She said to me, no, they're just too hard to work with. It's $100 billion in this fund. Even if we just receive $1 billion for our district, and the people who have this fund lives in our district.
There are so many people, politicians, and people need to hear this. Your Democratic elected officials, even though the president signed that and allowed that 100 billion to go out, a lot of you guys aren't receiving that in your district because your elected officials, Democrat elected officials, are not fighting for that money. They're not vying for it, because if they do, they have to give credit to the
Right.
president. So what they're doing is playing politics with you guys instead of caring more about how are my constituents doing faring. And so you guys need to really understand that. They would rather not give him a win than than to give him a win and see you win. Because then
Exactly.
he would say, hey, look at what we're doing here. And they don't want that on his resume. So they
Exactly.
rather you suffer for the next however long until. Now that
Another 4 more years.
so
Four more
you're
years.
calling it now too? You're
I
calling it
I called it then. I'm gonna call it now, just like I called the impeachment and I called everything else. 4 more years.
4 more years.
Yes.
Now I got to bring Trump up a little bit because um, Trump is not getting statistically is not doesn't look like he's faring well with African Americans. And I know your district is has a good number of African Americans in your district. Do you think your support for the president, if they go to your, you shouted out your Instagram and everything, they'll see you with pictures with Trump and Pence, and sometimes I think you had a MAGA hat on even. Do you think that as is a negative toward you? Do you think that will be a hindrance to you being able to reach out more?
I hope not. I hope that, like I said, people most definitely see the issues in which that I stand for and that I'm working on, and that they see that over the past 3 years, I've been working on criminal justice reform, and that the president has passed legislation on criminal justice reform. And like he said, it's the First Step Act. And there's going to be a second and a third and a fourth until we get Americans back on track and working and out of this system of recidivism. Like, so if they can see that and they can see all the things we've been working on, and that just don't look at President Trump and me, but look at, like I said, you have to have someone there, at the table. You have to have someone putting a bug in the ear of these elected officials. And because I'm Black, and because I'm in this district, and because I know what's going on in the community, and I can be that voice for those people, and I'm there, that's what they should be looking at. Not, oh, you're in the picture with the president and I don't know what else. So I'm in pictures with Democrats as well too. So it should tell you that I work across the lines. I work with whoever is going to be working with me, and that's fine. I've ran into some Democrats who can't stand my guts and would never work with me. And then, like, for instance, I'm ward leader here in Cleveland, and I have a gentleman that is the city council person, and we work together all the time. And he's a Democrat, you know? Not to mention the governor, who is a Republican here in Ohio. I, like I said, been working on criminal justice reform, and in the last month, so yes, it was about 30 days ago, the governor passed a new Pardon Act, in which that if you are your felonies are more than 10 years old, you can apply for a pardon. And it doesn't matter how many felonies you have,
That's
which
right.
is a beautiful thing.
From
Okay,
a
that wouldn't have
Republican
came
governor,
about.
guys. It's a
Yes, from a
Republican
Republican governor.
governor, and CNN is not going to post it. So you heard it here.
But you can see it on my Instagram and
That's
on my
right.
social media. So if you go past the Trump picture,
Go
you'll see.
keep scrolling. Keep
Keep
scrolling.
scrolling.
Don't stop at the Trump picture. You got to see all the other things that she's doing.
Right, right.
Also, when you go to her page, you'll see her in the community doing things. You'll see her, helping people out outside, passing out things. You gotta don't get caught up in your emotions. Let's look at
No,
and see what kind of issues that she's actually tackling. Now I looked
it's a
up
whole.
Cleveland is your big city that's in that district, right?
Yeah, so it's Cleveland and Akron.
Cleveland and Akron, right? And
Hmm.
when I looked up some stats on Cleveland, I felt like crying almost, but I was like,
Which ones? Like the murder rate or the
so
overdose
I looked
or
up like crime rates. It's like number ninth in the whole country. And then I saw something that really kind of got me is the poverty rate. And it says that
Hmm.
Cleveland is number 1, 2, and 3. It's first in child poverty, second in working age poverty, so that's 18 to 64, and third in elder poverty, which is 65 plus. And I'm looking and I'm seeing the same people, the same party has been running that show for a good amount of time.
Yes.
Somebody
Over
needs to
40
know
years.
they need to get fired.
Yes.
That is an absolute ridiculous uh, level here. And I'm sure Black people end up in the majority of these highest in the numbers in these
Oh,
poverty
yeah.
rates and crime rates.
Yeah.
So why do you think the message, or what do you think the GOP has to do to get this message out that it resonates with these voters? Or how can they help you to resonate with these voters to say, listen, you see the state that you're in, the same people have been promising you year after year, election after election, that things are going to get better, but look at where they are. At what point do you say, let's stop doing the same thing over and over again? I kind of felt like Trump. When I looked at the things, I was like, what are
What
you
do you have to lose? Yeah.
like? That's
Okay.
for real.
So
That's real. That is real.
it, he said that. Like I said, that is the reason why, one of the reasons why I like the president, because when I ran in 2016, he came here to this district to speak about school choice, which is another thing in which that the party and I align on, which is school choice, a parent
Mm-hmm.
being able to pick whatever school and education process for their child, not the
Absolutely.
mayor and not who the mayor picks and all this other stuff. But um, I always try to explain to people, one, we are not involved in our district from the bottom seats all the way up. So that's one thing, and I'll explain that one in a second.
Okay.
And two, we allow a lot of these elected officials, especially local elected officials. Oops. Uh-oh. I was getting a call. Okay. Especially these local elected officials to just be totally in charge of what it is that we do on an everyday basis, which they work for us. It's not the other way around.
Absolutely.
Okay. But right now, the city is working as if we work for those elected officials, that they are the ones that are in charge, or they are the ones that are even above the law in some cases, which I'll tell you about that, because I'm pretty sure you being in a different state, you don't know about Marsha Fudge and that Lance Mason situation. Do you? You know
Nope.
about that?
Have
Nope.
nothing
Okay.
about that.
Give me 1 second. Let me drop a little knowledge on why we aren't involved, first off.
Now
So
this
there's
is
some,
for Fudge, right?
no, this is just for us to be more involved so we can get what we need and want in our
Okay.
district.
Okay, go ahead.
So first off, there's seats called central committee seats or precinct committee seats, okay? And they are broken up within a city or a ward, okay? So in my case, I live in Cleveland, and Cleveland is split between 17 wards. We have 17 city council people, and each one of those wards has one city council person and should have at least one ward leader from each party. Okay, so in our case, we have the Libertarians and the Green Party and the Republican and Independent. I mean, Republican and Democrat. So there should be 4 ward leaders in each ward, but they're not. So that's the first thing, first mistake. So in my ward, in Ward 6, there's only one ward leader. That's me, the Republican ward leader. There's no Democrat ward leader. And we're supposed to work with the city councilman or a city council person in order to get things done and move to our city, or, like I said, infrastructure, roads, whatever it is that we might need, or be able to speak to the states. We're like liaisons to the party. And underneath those, the ward leaders are basically in charge of the central committee people or your precinct committee people. And in my case, my precinct, in my ward, I have 22 precinct seats. Okay. Um, 17 of them are empty. I'm actively trying to fill them with people. Now, if you look at the whole Cuyahoga County and the city of Cleveland, 90% of the seats are empty. But if you look at, say, the suburbs, Brunswick, Shaker, Cleveland Heights, the ones that you go, well, how come my city isn't looking like their city? Their seats are filled. Not only are they filled, they're usually filled with a female and a male, so they have two representatives that are fighting for their area. And also, picking candidates, and there's a lot more to
Are
what
these are
Central
these
Committee.
elected or are these assigned?
They're both. So you can be appointed to Central Committee, but every 4 years you have to go through an election. So right now for 2020, there is an election going on, and I will be Central Committee again because, like I said, most of the times when you fill out the paperwork, no one's going to challenge you. So all you have to do is vote for yourself, and you're in. If at some point in time you are not able to, run, then you could be appointed. So after this term, we like in March, if say you wanted to be on Central Committee, I can just uh, suggest that you be appointed, and we would take a vote on it. And I say we, so Central Committee people would take a vote on it, and usually they vote yes to have another member to take care of that seat. Those people, they endorse candidates from the president all the way down to, city council or even other Central Committee people. And then they are the governing body of your party. So if you're a Democrat or Republican, whatever party you're with, it's the governing body. Like, they are the party. So when you look at the DNC, the RNC, the C at the end is a committee. So yeah. And so those people are committee people. And usually, state committee people become delegates for the president. So if you're like, oh, how do you become a delegate? They're pulled from the Central Committee. Same thing with the Electoral College. Like, how do you do that? How do you become electoral? Who sits on the electoral? We're talking about committee people. Like, if you look at what Martin Luther King was fighting for back in with the March on Selma, it was to sit 22 people in the DNC convention at that time, but sent 22 Black people in the convention for Central Committee or for state committee at that time. And they didn't want any Black state committee people. Okay, Texas
The
and
Democrats didn't want.
the Democrats didn't.
I got
Okay,
let people know that. Let people know. Remember that
we're
history.
talking about Martin Luther King and why he marched. I asked people, why was he marching in Selma? It was like, for our rights. For your right. For what? The right to sit, to be able to endorse, who was it, Lyndon B at the time, as the next president. That was what he was fighting for, because he realized at the end of the day, Martin Luther King realized at the end of the day, the marching and the protests and everything else is all fine and good, but you still have to go and ask someone to write this legislation for you. So you need people in these seats that are going to be either fighting for or writing the legislation, like, as you said, that's going to last longer than their seats, that's going to be in our best interest instead of in the best interest of, let's say, a party.
Absolutely. So why isn't the party just saying, hey, let's go fill these empty seats?
Because the more, so it's all about also control.
Okay.
And that's what I'm gonna leave that, and that's
Yeah. I'm gonna leave that right there. Leave that right there.
It's about control. So let's go back to talking about what Marsha Fudge did as far as the swamp that is here in Cuyahoga County. Hopefully you can keep up with this, because I'm going to throw some names and stuff at you. But long story short, there was a Democrat judge named Judge Lance Mason, okay? And his wife, Aisha Mason, They had been married for a few years. All of a sudden, there's a 911 call that said that her husband beat her up, right? She had to get reconstructive surgery on her face. This man went to jail. Marsha Fudge wrote a letter for Lance Mason so he can get out early. So he only served 9 months after his wife had to get reconstructive surgery. His wife divorced him, but yet he still was forced, well, she was still forced to deal with him by exchanging and dealing with him as far as the kids go. So the mayor here also gave Lance Mason a job, okay, at the what do you call it? I'm sorry. City Hall. That's where it is. They gave Lance Mason a job at City Hall 9 months after he was convicted, released, and the next day he had a job after 9 months of jail. Okay. Where do you ever get a job making like $70,000 a year after you get out of jail? You know anybody? Because I don't know anyone. But this Democrat judge did, right? And so myself and the gentleman who was running against the mayor at the time had a press conference that was complaining about this. And my argument was, like I said, because my ex-husband was abusive, I know that these men don't change. Okay? It has to take something drastic in order for an abusive man to stop abusing, especially the person that, he's been abusing for years. Long story short, a year later, he stabbed and killed his wife. He's now been convicted to life in prison. I don't want to pay for him. I think he's scum. So I would have rather, he been sent to the death penalty, because that's what he should have been done, because he was beating her over the years and they were clearly covering for him. Marsha Fudge in her letter said that his wife was a drama queen. That's what she said, unquote. So that's another sister that was murdered and killed. She could have protected, but she chose not to because of the Democrats. And so,
because of that swamp, y'all.
Yep, because of the swamp. And so the woman of the best friend of the woman, Aisha, that was murdered, confronted Marsha Fudge at an event. You can look, this is all Googleable. The news has it. And Marsha Fudge pushed this lady, okay, because this lady's phone goes flying across the room, and you hear this lady saying, "Don't touch me, Marsha, don't touch me, Marsha." And so Marsha Fudge pushed this lady and then decided to go to another Democrat judge to get a restraining order against this lady in which that she attacked. And the judge yelled at the constituent and said, "We are an elected officials, and you can't just run up on us and ask us questions and shove cameras in our face because we're elected officials." And so granted Marsha Fudge the restraining order against this woman's best friend, in which she was just participated in the murder.
That is ridiculous. Fighting for their own kind, their own Democrats to get out of prison, but not fighting for you guys. Fighting for them to get jobs, not fighting for you to get a job.
Right.
Making sure their records get cleared, not making sure yours get cleared. This is ridiculous. Exactly. We got to get them out of there. Fire Marsha Fudge. What'd you say? Get the fudge out of here?
Hashtag get the fudge out of here. Yes, that is my hashtag. So please.
Now let me ask you this. Are you being primaried?
Yes.
You are. Okay.
Yes. So I have 2 other people running against me right now.
Okay. And when is your primary election?
March 17th.
March 17th. Oh, definitely. We got to get this out here, and we got to make sure that she wins in this primary. How are you preparing for that? Are these people you know or you work with?
No, not really. Not really. So it's one gentleman, he's younger. I want to say he's like 23. And then there's another woman, she's older, she's like 63. So, and believe it or not, I'm in the in the middle. I'll be 39 in March, and literally 50% of the people in this district are 39.
Wow. So you're like,
So
look, we all
that's the
graduated
middle age.
together. Vote for me. We're going to have our same, high school reunion and everything. Vote for me.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
So that's that. There's so
So are you
the
confident about
primary.
the primary situation?
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I'm out. I'm going to the board meetings. I'm going to people. I'm speaking to everyone. It's not my first time around. It's everyone else's first time. So I don't know how much name recognition that they will receive, or voter recognition, excuse me, that they might have. I've already, you know, been in with the voters and speaking to the voters. So
Now, do
I'm
you
not
have a
worried.
team? You have a pretty good team around you, or how much of this is all the Shalira doing all the work?
So I can't do everything by myself. So of course I have some great people. I have a great treasurer. I have a manager. I have some volunteers that they give their time, and they're the same volunteers from 2016. So a
Oh,
lot
they've
of the
been
people
rocking
have
with you.
been with me. Yeah, they've already been with me, and they've already seen everything that I've been doing, and they know that I'm a really hard worker, and I just won't stop until I'm done or I get what we need, and that's it.
Shout out to the volunteers.
Yes,
Awesome,
I can't
awesome.
do it without them.
So let me ask you this: when you have a bunch of policies and things that you want to put forward, what are some of the policy stances and things that you believe that will be able to help your district and to turn it in a different way? What kind of things will you be advocating for from Washington to be able to help your district?
Okay. So for instance, let's talk about, like I said, the inner city revitalization. One of the first things I'm going to do is try to get some of that $100 billion.
That's right.
I mean, that's the first thing. So we can put that into infrastructure, and a lot of that will also bring jobs too. So if we're building new streets, new highways, new airports, new buildings, facilities, convocational centers, hotels, whatever it might be, we're going to need construction people, lighting people, not lighting, electricians, and so forth. Another thing that it's a part of that I want to bring more business here as well through the entertainment industry.
Okay.
There was and this is just local, so not really on a federal, but something I'm working with local, on the state level. The 400, it was 140 million tax credit that's given to people who want to produce films here in Ohio, and
In the state or just your area?
there's 40 million. I'm sorry, 40 million. I
Okay.
want to raise it to 140 million.
Okay.
But yes, just in the state. So if you want to produce a movie here, or produce a film in the state, you can apply for that $40 million tax credit. I would like to raise it to $140 million so we can compete with places like Georgia, who has $140 million tax credit that is bringing in $1 billion a year, that employs over, 1 point, I think, 9 million jobs.
See
So
that? Them
yeah,
jobs, baby. Them jobs.
jobs. And so one of the funny things, on why so many people were confused about my race in the first place, is because I came from the entertainment industry. I used to do makeup for over 10 years.
Mm.
Fashion shows, photo shoots, movies, theater. I did makeup, so I was behind the scenes a lot. And you don't really know or realize what goes on, but behind the scenes in the production, and how many jobs that there actually are on a movie set. We're talking about the people who do lighting And then not only lighting, but the electricians who set up the light, and then the sound people, and the video people, and then the editors, because the person who recorded it isn't the same person who goes back and edit it. And then you have the actors and the makeup artists, the hairstylists, the people who do wardrobe, the assistants to the assistants. Like, it's so many people go into producing a movie that there are plenty of jobs in which that come with that, and we're not utilizing that here in Ohio. That's one thing I know that's going to separate me from any other opponent, is that I actually have a real plan in bringing jobs here, and even a space that will be provided for a sound room, so we can start, filming sitcoms or TV shows or shoot indoors. So we can compete with Chicago and Los Angeles and New York on that same level. Pennsylvania, it's funny that you're from there. You guys are just building a new sound stage in Pennsylvania. And to hear Ohio and just say, oh yeah, it's 3 hours away and we'll just drive to it to film, when we can have something right here in Ohio to film that's going to bring us money. No offense, but we don't want to give it to Pennsylvania.
It's all good. I had to move from Pennsylvania. Now I'm wishing I was back in Pennsylvania, but we're not going to talk about that.
Okay.
I moved to
where'd you move to?
I moved to New Jersey, and New Jersey is little Cali, so liberal on top of liberal on top of liberal, and I'm crying inside.
It's just a little bit.
But see, what I liked about Pennsylvania, the same thing I kind of liked about Ohio. They were with purple. So sometimes Democrats may win, sometimes Republicans may win, but because the constituents were kind of both, you couldn't make laws. Even if you were a Democrat, you couldn't be an AOC, right? You still had to be somewhat moderate, right? Because a lot of your constituents are Republican. In New Jersey, it's like everybody, they're running away with everything right now. So we want to protect you guys from what I'm experiencing. And that's why we need Shalira to get into Congress, because you don't want to experience what I'm experiencing right now. You don't want to experience what's going on down in Virginia. Virginia just went blue, and now they're fighting for their rights. You guys don't want that. She's going to fight for your rights. So make sure you get out there and vote for her, even in the primary. Yes. Now, would you consider yourself moderate, or would you consider yourself a straight conservative? Like, how do you stand on issues like pro-life and pro-choice and things of that nature? These are issues that are super polarizing, and it's put out there in the media. So these are the things that people are going to see often, the same arguments all the time. So people need to know where you stand.
Okay, so let's tackle, I guess, the biggest one, which is pro-life. Okay. I'm going to say, unfortunately, because I know some people don't fully agree with me being all the way pro-life, meaning that I believe life starts at conception, not 45 days after a heartbeat or anything like that, that life starts at conception. And the reason why I believe this is because of the in vitro doctors, the doctors who job is to impregnate women, right? Their job, that's their job. So just in 2017, the in vitro doctors figured out which eggs were fertilized and which eggs are not fertilized, because the eggs that are fertilized has a flash of light after gestation. And so, so they can see it, they can prove it, they can literally prove it right now. So Roe versus Wade is actually obsolete, and I have a way to prove it through the in vitro doctors and through science, that the eggs that have that zinc, it's a zinc flash of light that happens, become babies later on, and then the ones that don't flash actually don't become babies or embryos. So it's proof through that flash of light that life happens at conception. And so for that, like I said, I will be challenging the Roe versus Wade. The good and bad about that is remember, when you have the pen, and all Americans own this pen, you can submit a bill to Congress, you can submit a bill to your city council or to your state. So don't think that you have to wait for a congressperson or somebody in Congress to speak on your behalf of something. You, the constituents, can do the same thing. So after the destruction of Roe versus Wade, unfortunately, I would suggest, because I would suggest for anyone that if they disagree with that, to try to come up with a bill that would then turn around and allow you to have an abortion. I don't think it's going to happen. I think after I'm done, it's going to be off the books forever.
So
Sorry.
you're definitely going to be campaigning against that.
Yeah, it's the truth. I mean, here's the thing. Like I said, when you have to draw the line, you have to draw the line.
You
And
got to draw the line.
unfortunately, that's that line. If you know what I know, and I encourage you and everyone else to go and watch the video for the in vitro doctors when they see that flash of light, and the doctors will tell you that these are the ones that become babies, and then these are the ones that don't become babies. And if they know, and that's not even in a person, and they know which one before it starts to divide, and they know, then we know. And we can't ignore that, because we're going to have to answer, and not answer to our parents. We're going to have to answer to
God. That's right.
To God upstairs one day. And he's going to be like, well, if I showed you and told you the truth, why did you go against it?
That's right. So you got to have a stance. And Democrats, they want to be pro-science until it comes to something sexual. And then all of a sudden, science is no longer, now it's how I feel.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about the environment, you're pro-science, science. The Republicans are science deniers. Then you talk about sexuality, if you talk about life, now all of a sudden there's no such thing as science. Now it's how do I feel in this situation? So you drew the line, and I appreciate that. And
No
so
problem.
you're not afraid to stand on that line, because you that means you have that means you're not just trying to get votes, but that you actually have morals that you stand by and things that you stand on. And that's good. So people need to know that.
Sorry, not to mention, thank you very much. But not to mention, the other part to that is that the majority of the abortion killings were put in my district, and in and around Black people. And this is the reason why there's less Black women in this country, but we're having the majority of the abortions. That's a problem.
That is a problem.
In 1960, the Black race in the United States was 20 million Black people in 1960. Between, what was it, Roe versus Wade to now, since that was passed, we've killed 20 million Black babies. So we killed the whole population in 1960. And I don't think that's okay.
Look,
Not
Black
at all.
folk, we have been here since the beginning. There's no reason why we shouldn't be the second largest group of people in this country. This is our country. We fought for it. Our ancestors fought and died for it, paid for it with our blood, and we're handing it over. And that was for those abortion clinics being in the districts that they are all around the country, in the places that they are predominantly, that is not by accident. You guys need to look up Margaret Sanger and everything that she stood for. We're not going to talk about that, but you guys
No, we're going to talk about that. She said,
oh, she's not going to let me slide. I wanted to be nice for your people. Go ahead.
We're not being nice. We're not being nice, because there are plenty of people that are out there like, oh, she's going to get rid of abortion. Oh no, I might need to have an abortion in a couple months or something like that. You need to know that, yes, things are stacked against us to make us march in to have these abortions. Things are stacked against us. I mean, okay, here, because I like to be real. So let's be real.
Let's be real.
Let's be real. I had one with my ex-husband because he was abusive, and I was not going to bring a kid into that. I also got a divorce too, but it wasn't an easy decision. I knew exactly what I was doing. And at that point, I felt like it was going to be between my life or the baby's life. And yes, I was selfish because you see me and not them. But that is the conversation the real conversation we need to have with ourselves as Black women. And we need to stop marching our bodies and our babies into these abortion mills. We need to stop just supporting this, and we need to basically fix the black family. But that's a whole completely different story.
Absolutely.
So
Now,
we don't
now I
keep doing
love how, excuse me, I love how real. Did y'all hear how real that was? She's not. Now, this is not one of the old white men that the media tells you is the only ones that's saying that's pro-life out here. This is a Black woman who just said that she has actually had an abortion herself, but still understands though that this is a bigger issue. This is a bigger topic, and there's something behind it. There's something that society, they're pushing us in a certain way to eliminate what they called at one time weeds. Yes, your babies were called weeds, and to cut them down and to exterminate them. And so this is not a when you hear a pro-life candidate like our sister here, she's not coming at you from a holier than thou, I'm so perfect standpoint. This is a real person who understands that this is a touchy topic, but is also willing to put forth policy and procedures that can help us not get in the positions to have to get these abortions, but also not be brainwashed with this foolishness that they're feeding us on the daily and treating abortion as if we're tossing out the trash or leftovers that we had from last night. It's a much deeper topic than that, and we really need to be able to steer that narrative. I
it.
really
Yes,
appreciate you for your honesty and your realness right there.
no problem.
So let me ask you real quick one more time one thing about Trump, not him and his character and all that kind of stuff like that, but a lot of times people say they're going to ask you, sis, how
How what?
how can you be with him, how can you rock with him, right? That now when you're going around and you're knocking on doors, you have to have that, that 40-second, that 1 minute, what am I going to give to somebody, or what am I going to talk to somebody about quickly that I can run down to say this is why I support the president. Not necessarily I agree with every single thing that comes out of his mouth, but let me explain to you why, and bam, what would you say?
So my initial response is in 2016 when I ran and he came to that school. I handed him a letter that said, "Hey, I'm running for state rep, and I know you need Cuyahoga County to win. Maybe we can work together." And he sent Katrina Pearson back a few days later to help me knock doors and paid for the food for the volunteers and everything else. And then that was on a Friday. That Saturday, I was invited to breakfast, and then and so I ate with Laura Trump and Eric Trump breakfast along with Omarosa. And then on that Sunday,
Oh
and
Lord.
then on that Sunday, I went to church with everyone as well too. So um,
So you must be famous or something like
n-
that, right? You're a singer, you're an
no,
actress,
no,
you got to be rich
no,
or something like that, right?
no,
You can't
no.
just pass a guy running like Trump a note and him actually do something like that. No, you have to be famous.
That's why I deal with him, because I said I am little old me. I live in, like I said, District 11 in Cleveland area. I don't live in the suburbs. I don't live in a good area. I'm sorry, did you hear any gunshots? I don't know, since we've been on the phone. But yeah, no, I don't. I'm not rich. I don't have money. I'm not famous. I wasn't important. Remember, that was my first year running. So the party itself never heard of me. I was just a regular person, just like Donald Trump was a regular person, decided to run and decided to fight. The only thing, like I said, difference was is that if I had his money, I would be sitting in the seat right now.
Right, right.
um, so that was only determining factor, I believe. But yes, when I tell people he helped me, and I was just little old me, and he didn't have to. He could have ignored me. He could have did whatever. But when he actually stepped out to help, I said, you know what? This is a good guy. He's not racist. He's not sexist. You can't tell me that. That's what I tell people. You can't tell me he's sexist and racist because he didn't have to help me. He didn't even have to say he was gonna help me. I actually didn't expect to see anything from him. Not less than a week. Less than a week, this man moved on what it is that I said let's do. Okay? So I knew at that time, especially during his speech in my district, and what he was saying is how he drives through this area and he sees all the abandoned buildings, and we used to make stuff here, and how come we're not making stuff? And he's going to get all these jobs back from overseas, and put Americans back to work, and get all of these trade deals back in order, so we're not paying so much money. That's what I liked about him. And the fact that he actually did it is what I like even more about him. That's why I said he's going to win again, because the people who he was speaking to, and we heard him and we voted for him, he's literally did pretty much everything he said he was going to do, besides fix healthcare, which is something that has never been great in the first place. So,
Right. So he
yeah.
definitely has to work on that. And that's why he needs another term, right? And that's why we
Yes.
need Shalira,
Yes.
because you guys, the president doesn't get to just write the healthcare bill. He can't do that. That has to happen in Congress. And so we need some representatives to go in there and to make that happen. That is awesome. I've heard other Black Republicans who go into the White House and they said, what we've noticed, this president doesn't invite the athlete, doesn't invite the actress to the White House. It's the everyday person. It's a YouTuber. It's somebody who is just somebody that's on social media, or a student that they
Yeah.
just a college student that they allowed to come to the White House and hang out with them. So you're saying, look, he's just real, and he's making the things happen. One of the things he did was that trade deal that UMCA,
Mm-hmm.
I think what is it, USMCA deal,
Mm-hmm.
that the Democrats did not vote on for a whole year,
Mm-hmm.
snuck it out at the end of 2019 during the impeachment thing, because they signed off on it when they knew the news cycle wouldn't even be talking about them signing off on it, so that he wouldn't even get any credit. And I just
Yeah.
looked up Marcia Fudge. She actually voted against it, you guys.
Yep.
A bill that's designed to bring some jobs back and secure jobs and stuff here in America. Marcia Fudge said, nope,
Yep. And
that's the
she's going to
Democrat.
continue to do that. And so for another 4 years, or basically 5 now. So for another 5 years, we're going to have Marsha Fudge in there. That's 2 more terms for her. If she's voted in, um, doing nothing, along with the rest of the Democrats, the rest of the do nothing Democrats. They're not going to pass any legislation that's going to make it better, like you said, for our district, or because it's going to make the president look good and make it seem that, the Republicans really have our stuff together. If you noticed in the first year that the president had the House, look how much we really actually got
Let me tell you, I've never seen that before. When he got elected, I mean, they had to tell him to slow down, because he was like, I just got my inauguration. Let's start right now. Like, they were like, at least wait till tomorrow. He gave him 24 hours. And then after that, I mean, the whole first 2 years, he was throwing stuff out like boom, 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 boom. And then all of a sudden, after 2018, when
The
the
whole
House,
government shut
the
down.
whole government stopped. Now nothing is going on, and all you hear about is impeachment. I haven't seen anything pass.
And who's that? Let's see. That would be the Democrats.
The Democrats are holding it up. So we
Yeah,
got to get this House back. And this is why we need Shalira in the House so
yes,
that we can get that House back and we can get some things done.
exactly.
So, look, this was a great conversation. Um, Let me see. You have any other policies that you want to highlight that's on your platform that you want people to know about?
I'm gonna just run them down. I'm not gonna go into detail. I'm just
Go
gonna
ahead.
run them down for you so
Mm-hmm.
you'll know. Criminal justice reform. There's 6 million people here in the United States that basically have backgrounds. So just trying to get those people back on track. Inner city revitalization. Like I said, our streets, our infrastructures, business and job development. So because I'm a business owner and have been a business owner since 2004, I employed people. At one point, I've had 40 employees all the way down to basically 5 employees. And the majority of my employees are actually felons also because I believe in the second chance. So I literally employ um, people who are, returning citizens as well. So
Practicing what she
business
preaches, y'all. Practicing what she's preaching.
So business development is important because I know that that's going to bring jobs, along with term limits. Right now we have, and this is from me too, Congress people. I don't believe Congress people should be in their seats for 30 and 40 years and just die out. And then when they
Amen.
die, they have their wives running to try to get their seats. That's
Amen.
insane to me. Okay.
Amen. It's like these guys hold on to their seats. Come on, guys. Look, think about this. These people get old, they start having medical diseases that they hide from you all,
Yes.
and they keep getting elected until they get to the point where they can't hide it anymore and they're on their last leg. They needed to been out sitting with their family for the last, years of their life, but
Right.
they want to stay in power. Term limits. I'm all for it. Go ahead.
Medical freedom. So the medical freedom, if some people don't know, medical, or they call it health freedom, which would be your right to refuse if vaccinations if wanted to. Remember, like with me, I'm not in the fight on if you should have to take a vaccination or if you shouldn't have to take a vaccination. I'm not in the fight to say that it is good or it is bad. I just want you to be able to have your right to say no if you don't want to take that vaccination. Okay. So that's what I'm fighting for. Like I said, to fight to protect life. So you know where I'm at as far as pro life. Eliminate voting fraud. We have a lot of that going on. I worked in Washington State, and on the other side of the country,
Mm-hmm.
Washington State, and they only do vote by mail. So we had a lot of fraud there, and we know we did, but it wasn't anything we could really do about it because as we're knocking doors looking for these people, we're finding out they don't even live there. They didn't vote. They live in different states, but basically they didn't vote. And so voter fraud is very important, and we need
So,
to,
so what
eliminate
do you
that.
do? Are you saying like, to shore up the registrations, have an ID? Like, what do you mean? Like,
So I believe we should have IDs.
when you go vote? Okay.
When you go vote. I mean, the argument was, oh, okay, and this is my favorite argument from the Democrats. Oh, black people don't have IDs. Everybody I know has IDs. So
Lord
if you want to
Jesus.
get food stamps or Section 8 or go and get HEAP or PIP or any of those kind of like, government subsidies, you need to have, they ask you for your ID and social security card. Even, okay, let's be real at this point. In New York, in Los Angeles, immigrants have IDs.
They're giving them to look. They said black people, you guys don't have IDs, but they're making sure illegal immigrants are
Have
getting IDs.
IDs. So I don't want to
That's how
hear
much
it.
they feel about you guys. That's how they feel about
Exactly.
black people. Okay,
Exactly.
these are the people that you guys are guaranteed to vote for, or they are assuming that you're going to vote for them all the time, and this is how they feel about you. Absolute craziness.
So yeah. So I
So
think IDs and
IDs.
making sure that we don't go into the electronic voting. I don't like that. I
Okay.
think we have to keep it the old school way. We collect all the ballots and we count them up, because electronics, they can switch, they can
Be
do
hacked and all
funky
that good
stuff.
stuff. That's
Who
right.
knows? Or supposedly hacked by Russia. We don't want that again, right? So I'm okay with paper ballots and you coming into the poll to vote,
Hmm.
and then you being able to do a vote by mail ballot, but with your ID written on it, so they or social and all of those information, so they know that it's you, and that it's pretty much set up the way I would like it here in Ohio. So, but it's not like that across the country. Um, so that's one, eliminating voter fraud. Because of my district uh, goes into the lake a little bit, so I have some of the lake. And unfortunately, here in Ohio, we have been known as a mistake on the lake. And
Oh,
yeah, it caught on fire a few times.
the lake caught on fire.
Oh, you didn't know? You should
Oh
look
my
that up.
goodness.
Have you
Are they
heard about?
spilling over there?
Um, Yeah, there were some. Well, not this. This was like in 1975 or something,
Okay,
and
long
80,
time. Hmm.
maybe 82. The last time it caught on fire.
Don't blame her,
But
y'all. She wasn't even born then.
I was born in 81. It was
Oh, see,
it.
I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt.
It could have been me in 83. I might have did that because But yeah, so 80 around in the 80s, it caught on fire. It was just a bunch of chemicals, and they passed a lot of EPA acts and cleanup and no dumping and a whole bunch of other stuff. But our lake is still not as fresh and as clean as it should be, because we do have a lot of factories that are right on the water. Um, so just protecting and making sure, you know, we're not killing, our fish and our wildlife that is around our Great Lakes. The next three, I'm almost done. So, ending human trafficking. So, we talk about
Amen.
slavery and we talk about all this other stuff, but I'm sorry, we're not really talking about human trafficking. And sometimes we need to just take human out and just put women in there, because I don't think they're, snatching Tyrone, that's 6'3", off the street and making him do anything. Okay. Um, I'm just, we need to really protect our women and our young girls out here, and a lot of us fall victim to human trafficking. And besides that,
And as
a
many
lot of
women of color as well
yeah,
are being predominantly recently. It's ridiculous, you guys.
yes, yes,
Fight
and
for it.
besides that, we are also, when women are charged, for instance, some women are being human trafficked and they're charged with prostitution. And when they're charged, that stays with them, it sticks with them. But if later on you prove that, you were not arrested, you were kidnapped, or, you were taken, away from your state and made to do this, you should be cleared of that crime. It shouldn't continue to stick with you, because sometimes, just like going back to jail, if that's what you're stuck with, that's what you end up having to do to get yourself out. So it's almost like a,
That
revolving
endless
door
cycle.
for
Hmm.
some of these women. Yep. Next, banning dual citizenship as house members. So some house members have dual citizenship, which that's not. How do you represent the United States and write laws for the United States, but yet have some kind of tie or lineage to another country? The president, we can't have a president that's from another country or born in another country. So why would we have representatives that are dual citizens in other countries? Doesn't make sense. So, last but not least, ending the opioid crisis. So I use a few scenarios. One is called Rat Park. So if you look up Rat Park, there was a doctor in Canada that came up with this concept called Rat Park. Because you always hear of the experiment that they did with the rat, and they put a rat in a cage with a bottle of water that's laced with drugs, and then they put a bottle that's not laced with drugs, and the rat that's in the cage does these drugs until they just die. Okay, so then this doctor decided to create Rat Park. So it was a big area, big space. It had multiple rats in it, both male and female. It had all the food that you could want and little toys that they can play with and everything. And they put two bottles of water in there. Again, one laced with drugs and one without drugs. And what ended up happening was, I think my earphone died. What ended up happening was the rat never actually touched the drugs. Okay, so the concept is that drug addiction is not chemical, it is mental, and it is social. So you'll find that a lot of drug addicts end up by themselves or doing drugs with other drug addicts because it is a social problem and not a chemical problem. And so Portugal was the only country that went through the process in order to decriminalize all of their drugs and put all of that money that they had on the war on drugs into social programs where people can be more social, and into job programs where they paid half of the salary. So a company can hire someone that had a past drug problem, and the government paid half of the salary for a certain period of time. So these people are then back connected with society. They back have jobs again, and now they have a reason to live. So a lot of times they don't go and do drugs. And since 2010, Portugal heroin use has been down by more than 50%, along with their blood-borne and blood-transferred diseases like HIV and whatever else you can spread through needles. Those are all down as well too because of this program. So it's something in which that I would be pushing towards the United States adopting, maybe not necessarily decriminalizing all the drugs, but at least redirecting that money that we put on a war on drugs, and maybe like not a war, because we're declaring war on our own people that actually need help, because drugs is not something you don't just wake up and be like, oh, I'm gonna be addicted to heroin today. People don't do that. So it's some kind of issue that's going on besides holding the doctors responsible that are actually pushing those drugs too. So
Awesome. Listen, sister, we are rooting for you here. We want you to take them streets, and we want you to take back and conquer this seat. You've been trying it for a little while, but your first time around was just to get you're able to take those hits and to make sure that you know what you're doing. And now you've knocked all the rust off, all the new and the green is gone. You're in this fight, and you guys in District 11, you need to have her fighting for you. She's one of you. She lives near you. She lives in the district. She's not trying to just show off. She's been through the things that you guys are going through, and she's want to fight for you. She's one of you. So give your information one more time so that people can know how to get in touch with you.
all right, one more time. My name is Shalira Taylor. I'm running for U.S. Congress, and my website is taylor4uscongress.com, and that's FOR, not the number 4, but that's taylor4uscongress.com. And if you want to Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff is all the same, which is ST, the number 4, OH. So ST4OH, which stands for Ohio. And I
Awesome.
thank you for having me.
No problem. I appreciate you. And you guys, this is another one in the books. We will see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Peace.
Peace.